The girl was born with a peculiar ability. Wherever she touched or walked, clusters of poisonous mushrooms would frequently sprout up. The townspeople dubbed her the Mushroom Witch. They kept their distance, wary of getting too close, and shopkeepers along the streets would even slam their doors shut the moment she appeared. The Mushroom Witch was, quite literally, a walking patch of poisonous fungi. Everyone, even the children, knew that getting too close to her was a sure way to meet a fatal end. When the witch was in a foul mood, she would pull her hat down to conceal herself, causing thorny vines to erupt around her, a silent warning to others to stay away. Yet there were some in town willing to do business with her. The apothecary owner was one of the few willing to serve the witch, for the medicines she crafted were remarkably potent. However, whenever they met, the owner would never, under any circumstances, remove his face mask, and as she left, he would invariably remind her to thoroughly clean up any mushrooms she had left behind, a necessary precaution, albeit a somewhat helpless one. The witch held a deep affection for the local bookstore. Beyond its shelves of books, the shop was home to an elven proprietor, a beautiful elf who, beneath a human guise, ran the establishment. When the witch was in high spirits, roses would bloom in her wake. She often wished to see the owner revert to his true elven form. Well, as for that, the owner, whom she affectionately called Madame Glasses, would demur. Yet whenever the witch visited, his elven aura would noticeably dim. It turned out that the witch possessed a unique constitution capable of breaking down toxins. However, this meant that both she herself and the mushrooms she spawned were imbued with those very toxins. This was one of the rare instances where the witch's peculiar nature actually proved useful. The stronger the toxins present, the more vigorously her mushrooms would grow. Just the week prior, a public execution had taken place in the town square. When the witch passed by the site, the mushrooms that sprouted there grew as tall as trees. Although the owner never explicitly stated it, the witch knew that the execution was somehow linked to the persecution of witches. In this land, practitioners of magic were broadly categorized into two groups: the white witches, who pledged their allegiance to the royal family, and the black witches, those who refused to submit. The mushroom witch belonged to the latter group, and she lived her life with constant caution. She bore no ill will toward the human world. Although it was a place rife with malice, her mushrooms possessed the power to purify and neutralize such negativity. Even when that malice caused her mushrooms to mutate into monstrous forms, the witch could effortlessly subdue them, and indeed pop them into her mouth to savor their distinct flavors. Although the owner was grateful to the witch for purifying his books, he would invariably have his incense burners lit and smoking long before she even set foot inside the shop. As soon as the witch left, he immediately gave the bookstore a thorough cleaning once again, something the witch was well aware of. One could tell from his gaze that he didn't mind it in the slightest. Afterward, the witch returned to the pharmacy, for at this particular time of day, a crowd of customers would invariably gather there, eager to purchase the potions the witch had brewed. This was a scene the witch loved to behold. Crouching in a corner, the mere sight of a customer's smile upon acquiring a potion was enough to instantly dispel the fatigue of the entire day. However, today the witch encountered a peculiar patient, a man with only one leg, struggling to walk with the aid of a crutch. The witch watched intently as the man, looking utterly dejected, slowly departed the pharmacy. Upon returning home, the witch set about brewing a potion capable of regenerating severed limbs. The pharmacy owner, however, dared not accept it. Such a miraculous cure lay far beyond the realm of ordinary medicine, and might well be perceived as a sinister omen. Consequently, the witch had no choice but to administer the potion directly to the man, causing a pair of new legs to sprout forth. The witch attempted to slip away unnoticed, but was nevertheless spotted, and ultimately compelled to leave. The witch longed to seek out the man again, yet no one would reveal his whereabouts. In the end, with a heavy heart, the witch could only let the matter go. Just as the witch was preparing to depart, something suddenly caught their attention. A young couple, leaning happily against one another. It was the first time the witch had ever witnessed such a scene, and it felt utterly surreal. Due to a unique physical constitution, anyone who came into physical contact with the witch would be poisoned, let alone sharing an embrace. Yet, the witch yearned for that very warmth, that feeling known as the witch understood it as love. Too shy to ask the bookstore owner directly for books on the subject, the witch simply buried their face deep within the hood of their cloak. It was only with the cheerful assistance of Nunu and David that the witch finally managed to purchase a romance novel and take it home. The witch's companions gathered around, eager to explore the world contained within the book's pages. The witch possessed the magic to bring the illustrations to life, allowing them all to experience the story's events as if they were living through them firsthand. Thanks to this gift, the witch never felt truly alone, with a flutter of excitement. The witch opened the romance novel, a gesture that felt akin to unlocking an entirely new world, and the story of the hero and heroine unfolded before their eyes. The witch also possessed a passion for drawing. That day, the witch sketched the young man from the couple encountered earlier, Captivated by his handsome features, the witch felt compelled to capture his image on paper. The witch adored beautiful things, yet lived in constant fear that their own toxic touch might mar or destroy them. Thus, the witch chose to preserve that beauty, solely within the confines of a drawing. Before he knew it, the figures he drew had become incredibly lifelike, so much so that it seemed as if a soul had taken up residence within them. The boy in the painting suddenly came to life. He smiled at the witch and extended his hand, inviting her to share a dance. Together they drifted up into the night sky, waltzing gracefully beneath the moon. Just as the witch was happily losing herself in the moment, a sudden gust of wind swept the boy away. The witch reached out to catch him, but her hand landed only on a mushroom, leaving her holding nothing but the drawing once again. It was a night she would not soon forget. The very next day, the witch went into town to buy paper and pens. Afterwards she tried drawing the boy a few more times, but he never appeared as he had that first time. Strange occurrences continued to unfold. The witch crossed paths with that same couple again, but this time, she witnessed their breakup. The girl unceremoniously kicked the boy away, the reason for which was immediately obvious. The boy had lost all his previous charm, now resembling nothing more than a drained, hollow husk. It had all happened so suddenly. In the span of a single day, he had gone from radiant to utterly lackluster. The witch's face filled with horror as she realized the truth. She hurriedly extracted the soul from the painting and returned it to the boy. Instantly he began to sparkle with vitality once more. However, this act also caused the boy to notice her. Terrified, the witch fled the scene, completely unaware that something truly magical was about to happen. The boy remembered the events of the previous night, yet in his memories there was no terrifying dark witch, only a sweet, gentle girl. The boy, whose name was Henry, felt a special connection to the witch. Spotting her amidst the crowd, he approached her with the casual air of a passerby and offered a friendly greeting. The witch glanced left and right, confirming that she was the only person nearby. She could hardly believe she was actually being approached, and by the very person who had been her online romantic interest no less. Yet now that they had finally met in person, she felt completely overwhelmed and didn't know how to react. Panicked, the witch retreated into the depths of her hat. Catching a gust of wind, she made her escape, leaving even her little companion Niu behind in her haste. Fortunately, the witch soon returned from her mushroom home, having mustered the courage to apologize for her behavior the previous night. Henry, however, felt nothing but joy regarding the events of that evening. He was simply delighted that his encounter with the witch had been a real, tangible experience, and the image of her lovely face continued to linger in his mind. The witch, too, recalled the moment they had held hands the previous night. Blushing once more, she conjured a mushroom to place between them, partly out of shyness, but also to ensure Henry wouldn't be poisoned by touching her. Henry, however, wasn't hurt by this. On the contrary, he laughed. Indeed, when one truly loves someone, everything about them, even a mushroom, seems utterly adorable. It was the first time the witch had ever been praised in such a way. Feeling both shy and delighted, the flowers on her hat burst into full bloom. Henry, as if a floodgate of words had opened, chatted incessantly with Luna, completely oblivious to the strange looks cast their way by passers-by. Since Henry's family belonged to the White Witch faction, while Luna was a Black Witch, their acquaintance was, without a doubt, an incredibly foolish and dangerous affair. Yet Henry believed the White Witches were merely a bunch of arrogant snobs. Being with Luna made him feel a profound sense of peace, and he jokingly remarked that she had helped cleanse the gloom from his heart. Those words struck a deep chord within Luna. Having long borne the burden of being shunned by everyone, how could she not be moved upon finally meeting someone who truly understood her? Yet, happy times are always fleeting. Just then, 2 soldiers arrived, searching for Luna. She hurriedly hid inside her hat, and with the aid of a crow, managed to make a successful escape. Henry followed close behind, reluctant to let her go, shouting that he wanted to see Luna again, even if only within a painting. When Luna next opened her eyes, she found herself back at the bookstore. The crow had transformed into a human, the familiar spirit of a great sorcerer, and warned Luna to stop seeking out Henry. But the seeds of love had already been quietly sown. Unable to let go of Henry, she couldn't resist painting his smile once more. Henry reappeared within the canvas, and the moment their eyes met, they embraced. Within the painting, Henry could only communicate with Luna through written words. This time, the artwork was somewhat hastily sketched, reflecting Luna's inner conflict. She knew she shouldn't be meeting Henry, yet she could not bear the agony of missing him. Nevertheless, whether during their first encounter or this one, Luna's heart was filled with happiness. Henry knew the price he paid each time Luna brought him to life through her art. Yet regardless of the cost, he still longed to be with her. And so, the two of them spent a sweet time together. They lived side by side, embracing and kissing beneath the moonlight. Yet change arrived with startling speed. One day, the crow sought out Luna once more, urging her to see Henry's physical condition with her own eyes. Human beings possess fragile magical constitutions. Every time Henry met with the witch, he was effectively burning through his own life force. As the very source of this affliction, the culprit, the witch was, without a doubt, the Black Witch of whom the world spoke. Ultimately, no happy ending awaited them. To protect Henry, Luna extracted from his body the essence of herself that resided within him. It took the form of a poisonous mushroom, yet it was as beautiful as a blossoming flower. This served as proof of Henry's deep affection for her, filling Luna with boundless happiness as their lives returned to how they once were. Upon his recovery, Henry forgot everything about Luna. Luna reverted to being the feared Black Witch, until one day, when a young boy stumbled unexpectedly into her world. The girl possessed the power to heal all things, yet she was never welcomed by others, for wherever she walked, or whatever she touched, without exception, poisonous mushrooms would sprout forth. Consequently, the townspeople dubbed her the Mushroom Witch. For this very reason, Luna was forced to live a solitary existence in a mushroom-shaped cottage deep within the forest. One day she stumbled upon an injured youth. Due to the nature of her constitution, Luna dared not touch him directly. Furthermore, the mushroom people she summoned via magic merely floated upon the water, proving useless in offering aid. Fortunately, the crow happened to be searching for Luna at that moment. With his assistance, the injured youth was carried safely into the mushroom cottage. The crow believed it was already too late for the youth, reasoning that he had lost too much blood. Luna, however, thought otherwise. She detected the scent of poison emanating from the boy's body, specifically from the arrow embedded in his nose, and surmised that the projectile itself had been laced with venom. She resolved to extract the arrow first. Sure enough, the instant she pulled it free, the poison transformed into a cursed mushroom. Yet it was evident that the toxin had not been fully expelled. Ultimately, it coalesced into a cursed mushroom of even more colossal proportions. Staring at the mushroom, which exuded an ominous aura, everyone stood frozen in place. Sensing the situation was turning dire, Crow hurriedly scooped up the cattle and sheep, preparing to flee, yet Luna did not flinch. She embraced the mushroom and absorbed it completely. However, having absorbed a volume of toxins far exceeding her own capacity, her body now swelled with internal pressure. As Crow and the others rushed forward in concern, she urged them to keep their distance. Immediately thereafter, she dashed out of the house and presented herself before the Lone King. The Lone King treated Luna as if she were his own daughter. Whenever she absorbed an excessive amount of toxins, he would step in to purify and neutralize them for her. Although the toxins coursing through the boy's body were incredibly potent, Luna sensed that his inner spirit remained crystal clear, much like her own had once been. Consequently, the Lone King placed his trust in the witch, giving her free rein to act as she saw fit. He vowed to stand guard over her, until the very moment he himself crumbled into dust. Watching Luna, now completely purged of the toxins, the heavy burden weighing on everyone's hearts finally lifted. Afterward, the group returned to the house. Although the injured boy was still alive, his body had inexplicably regressed to the physical size of a 6-year-old child. Luna seemed to understand the reason behind this transformation, yet she chose to remain silent. She implored Crow not to breathe a word of the day's events to anyone. However, before Crow could even finish his reply, a host of black witches and black archmages descended upon Luna's home. Their purpose was to convene an emergency council to determine the appropriate punishment for the grave transgression that had been committed. Crow, standing to the side, was utterly stunned, for in this realm, emergency councils were convened only during times of monumental crisis, and the grave transgression Luna had committed was her attempt to conceal the boy. Upon witnessing this, Crow suddenly recalled having seen a portrait of this very boy before. In this land, the privilege of having one's portrait painted was reserved exclusively for the royal family. Coupled with the boy's distinctive attire, it was not difficult to deduce his identity. A high-ranking member of the White Witch's royal lineage, quite possibly even a direct heir to the throne. The council declared that if the witch were to surrender the boy, they would agree to overlook her act of treason. This was the most favorable compromise the Water Witch had managed to negotiate on Luna's behalf. Yet, Luna refused to hand the boy over. She explained that the toxins within his body had been thoroughly purified and neutralized. He no longer posed any threat to the world. Many of the mages regarded Luna's words with skepticism. Although they had indeed witnessed her extracting the demon, evolving such an unnatural and ominous toxin was an exceedingly difficult feat. At that moment, the Water Witch stepped forward to voice her trust in Luna. The bird mage then instructed his raven to divulge every detail it knew. The raven confirmed that everything Luna had said was true, yet the Rouge Mage still could not bring herself to accept it. Luna hid the boy because he was a child of the curse, the seed of the strangers. Should he ever transform into a master of the strangers, the world would face a catastrophe of unimaginable scale. This was a secret known only to their inner circle, a fact the Mushroom Witch had been privy to from the very beginning. Only the crow had been kept in the dark. Enraged by this deception, he found himself compelled to take a stand against the witch on this matter. The crow attempted to seize the boy by force, but the witch's magic held him at bay. The other black witches, however, remained rooted to the spot, taking no action. In truth, they had long anticipated this outcome. Thus, they decided to simply place their bets on the Mushroom Witch. After all, intervening now would be a needless risk. Solomonus Nicholson, this world is a cruel place, where even the kindest souls are fated to walk a path leading to the world's destruction. The Mushroom Witch herself was once a child of the curse. Unlike the other black witches, she possessed a unique ability. She could absorb and purify toxins, causing them to sprout into mushrooms. Such a power was utterly unparalleled in this world. Moreover, being exceptionally bright since childhood, she taught herself magic, passed the rigorous trials set by the black witches, and ultimately defied the grim destiny of a child of the curse to become one of their own. Consequently, when she encountered a young boy who shared that same cursed lineage, her compassionate nature led her not to snuff out the latent threat, but rather to strive to save an innocent life. Yet times had changed. This boy did not possess the same extraordinary talents as the Mushroom Witch, and among the black witches, there were those who firmly believed that eradication was the only correct course of action. The Rouge Mage, cold and resolute, was determined to sever the roots of this curse once and for all. Her flames coalesced into a ferocious beast, roaring as it lunged toward the Mushroom Witch, thirsting for her blood. The other black witches watched the scene unfold with apparent unconcern. The crow was the only one who felt anxious for the Mushroom Witch's safety, yet he was restrained by his master, for by the time the flames dissipated, the witch would have already burrowed underground and made her escape. Of course, running away is never a true solution to a problem. She hadn't gotten far before the crow tracked her down and dragged her back. The Mushroom Witch, it turned out, held quite a grudge. Upon her return, she immediately launched a counterattack. She planted a patch of lethal pot mushrooms atop the Rouge Mage's head, a variety that grows more explosively the angrier its host becomes, causing the fungi to erupt with such force that they shattered the very building around them. Realizing that further provocation would be futile, the sorcerers understood they had no choice but to temporarily set aside their murderous intent. The black witches fell silent to listen as the Mushroom Witch spoke. She vowed to pour every ounce of her being into helping this child break the shackles of his cursed child destiny, guiding him to become a truly exceptional sorcerer. Perhaps this too was the Devil Witch's true mission. She firmly believed she could help the boy transcend his fate as a cursed child. Indeed, she felt it was the very hand of destiny that had guided her to aid the youth standing before her. The other black witches held varying attitudes toward the matter. Some dismissed it as sheer fantasy, while others believed the Mushroom Witch capable of working miracles, for her very existence was, in itself, a miracle. Moreover, they reasoned that resorting to killing at the slightest provocation was an act of cowardice. Ultimately, they simply sought a quick, permanent solution without having to expend too much effort. The Time Witch proposed a formal vote to determine whether the black witches would agree to let the Mushroom Witch take the boy under her wing. All agreed to the vote, save for the Rouge Witch, who insisted on a special stipulation. Since the Wind Witch was absent, having slacked off to go home and nap, he had entrusted his proxy vote entirely to the Rouge Witch. Consequently, the Rouge Witch alone held 2 votes. Thus, the boy's destiny arrived at a crossroads. Whether the Liu boy would be executed or spared now rested entirely upon the Black Witch's collective choice. The 4 witches of bird, water, beast, and insect voted in favor of sparing him. Opposing them were the 13 witches of fireworks. Though fewer in number, their combined votes still totaled 4. Standing silently in the center of the room was the remaining member, the Eastern Witch. Unable to speak aloud, she communicated via telepathy. As she sat quietly weaving cat's cradle strings with her fingers, it was clear she had chosen to abstain. Just as everyone assumed the outcome would remain a stalemate, a miraculous scene unfolded. A figure suddenly materialized within the room. The Rouge Witch, poised to launch an attack, was halted by a shout of recognition. The newcomer was a former member of their coven, one they had long since lost during the Great Witch Hunt. The Cat Witch had returned from the realm of the dead to lend her dear friend one final helping hand. You know, Heart of Intrigue Mom is dead. The Cat Witch and the Mushroom Witch had once been as close as sisters. The Mushroom Witch had even cultivated a lush forest realm where the cats could frolic to their heart's content. Yet this reunion, their final meeting, was destined to be a permanent farewell. The cat witch left behind a hat for the mushroom witch. With this final contribution, the vote count shifted decisively to 5 against 4. As the cat witch is a member of the black witches, her dying wish is bound to be honored. Even if the rouge sorceress wished to object, she would be overruled. The sorceress's flames were subsequently put to use roasting sweet potatoes, a culinary treat. Yet the black witches also imposed a strict deadline upon the mushroom witch. Within a span of 3 years, should the young boy fail to demonstrate the aptitude for magical history necessary to triumph over his destiny, his ultimate fate, execution, will remain unchanged. During this interim, the black witches will take turns visiting him to administer various trials. The crow was left behind to serve as a monitor over the black witches. With that, the meeting concluded. A gust of wind swept through the room and they vanished. The crow found himself once again worrying over the mushroom witch. He certainly had his hands full in the days ahead. The witch, however, felt no urgency to ponder what the future held, for she had already been frightened into a deep slumber.